I've known her for years, decades. She is from the baby boomer generation, and she has raised successfully 5 beautiful, young, gifted children that are all adults now, and she's also a grandmother of 4. So I'm glad to have Sharon Stocker with me. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so very much. It's such an honor to be here.
Okay, so we're going to get into our show today, and as we've discussed already, I am writing a book called Don't Be That Parent. And as you know, the book is basically about some observations that I've seen as an administrator in school, but also some things I've seen on TV and just in my personal observations as I've been walking through the streets of Philadelphia, D.C., and now New York. So I have a few questions for you, okay?
Certainly, go right ahead.
Okay, the first question is, what makes parenting so hard?
Well, probably a new parent's idealism. Before you even have a child, you imagine in your mind what you would want to do with that child, how you will raise that child, and where you will have that child to go to school. But once you have that child, you begin to see that it's not as easy as how you had planned it. Number one, what makes it so difficult? Trying to control outside forces. While they're babies, of course, it's a lot easier. You can shelter them and keep them somewhat close to you. But then once they go to Get Set or preschool or any other outside activity, they're going to be influenced by other children. So right away, your whole plan of keeping this child sheltered is blown. Because you can raise your child one way, and when they go out to school, you're going to have 10, 15, 20 or more children who've been raised differently. If you teach your child not to fight, well, what do you think the first thing they're going to be confronted with? Another fighting child who's been taught to fight.
Exactly.
So I believe that's one of the things, trying to control outside forces. Number 2, you want them to have good values. You want to instill in them the importance of self, the importance of not only self, but I'm a Christian, and so therefore I want them to know who made them. I want them to know that they did not evolve from a monkey. I want them to know that God made them and made them in His image and likeness, and yes, He's in Him. That's number 2. You want them to have your values. Now, you can't always cram these values down their throat, because as they get older, they're going to begin to question you. What do you mean God made me? My teacher told me that I came from an egg. So sometimes you have to go in debt. When I first became a parent, I went out and I bought a book, What Every Child Will Ask You and the Questions You Need to Know. Why is the sky blue? Now, you might laugh, but these are the types of questions that I felt that I should be able to answer to my children. And we all have questions that we want to answer of our children. You might consider these trivial questions, but wanting to be a good parent, you want to be able to answer them truthfully, concisely, or you want to be able to point them to the right direction. Number 3, being able to answer each question your child posed to you. That can be difficult because they're always evolving questions, and that means that as a parent, you have to keep evolving to be able to answer those questions.
Okay, thank you. I think it's key as we're talking about the book, Don't Be That Parent. So my second question is, what was your most embarrassing parent moment?
I'm so glad no one can see me but you. Because I had 4 children and they were stair steps. And it was a stressful time for me. I remember it so vividly. Struggling to get up in the morning and be at work by 9 o'clock, and you had to have your children at the daycare by 8, but you had to catch public transportation. I think 2 were walking, 1 was in a stroller, and I'm carrying 1 in my arms. And in the morning, it was like a factory. I would lay the babies all down, trying to get them prepared, washing them up in the morning. And as I began to wash each one of their faces and washing behind their ears especially, and making the outward motions from the eyes and doing all of these special things that you do to babies, I neglected to wash a pair of hands. You're laughing. But one of the young ladies at the center where I had 2 of the babies at, she told me later that they had discovered the baby's hands were dirty. Oh my gosh. I could have gone through the sidewalk. I think I just looked straight ahead. I don't remember bursting into tears.
Oh my.
But that was the most embarrassing. The fact that I can remember it 27 years later. Let you know, yes, that was absolutely one of the most embarrassing times. And I'd like to say that I began to plunge them in a bathtub every day thereafter.
Okay, so what about a really good moment? What was the best moment, just you as a parent?
Well, whenever any one of your children succeeds or does something that they're especially proud of, you're proud of. And so because I had sons and daughters who were who were on teams, whether it be baseball teams, basketball teams, football teams, or whatever, I can remember their successes because usually I was there when they made a basket or when they hit the ball or whatever it was, whatever they were doing, their success was my success. Graduation was always a good moment when you especially felt that they had succeeded. To bring it more recently, I believe when one of my sons received a scholarship, a 4-year scholarship to Penn State. That was a very proud moment. When another son went away to college, to Lincoln University, that was another proud moment. When my daughter was accepted at 6 universities, when my youngest daughter, when she graduated from the 8th grade, and I was very proud of that moment. And as I began to see her develop into a young woman, these are all proud moments for any parent when their children are successful and when they see their children doing things that they enjoy. Because I remember as a young parent placing all of my children, holding them up to God and saying to God, God, you've given me these children, but these are not my children. I understand that they belong to you. So I'm giving them back to you. I'm consecrating them to you, and I'm asking you to use these children as you see fit and let them be in your army. And so, yes, I'm very proud because I believe that God is doing what he said he would do.
Okay. So if you had to give one tip or one piece of advice to a parent, what would it be?
Keep your children close. Today, I know that it's very popular to let your children be independent, to let them explore, to let them go here, to let them go there. But until you have taught those children, until you have guided and reared those children and guided them in the way that they should go, until you feel that your children have a good sense of self and responsibility, I would say keep your children close. And I know a lot of you believe in pajama parties and things like that. I'm sorry. I don't. When they're children, when they're kids, when they're young boys and girls, ages 6, 7, 8, 9, no. Be very cautious, be very careful, and make sure that you know who it is that your children are associating with. And if you feel like you're being an overprotective parent, that's one place I can say is nothing wrong in being overprotective. And I don't say overprotective to the point where you get a investigative reporter on them, but investigative to the extent you know who they are, you know where they live, and you know their number, and you have known them for a little while. Somebody else can vouch for them, because people are different today. And I'm not going to say that you can't trust people, but I will say as a tip, keep your children close.
So it's funny because the first chapter of Don't Be That Parent is called The Overprotective Parent. So besides just the overprotective parent, have you seen or have you ever had a moment where you were a don't be that parent? Like it crossed the line of parenting?
Well, of course, teenagers are going to always tell you that you're like that. They're going to always tell you that you're overprotective and they know what they're doing. But that's why you're the parent and they're the child.
Okay.
Because you've been around a little longer than they have.
Okay.
Okay. So, yes, I can remember a time when I was considered overprotective. I never thought that I was overprotective. On the contrary, I thought that I was somewhat lenient. I let my children go outside. When we were growing up, my parents had us sitting on our steps at 6:30, 7 p.m. Everybody else was out playing at 8 and 8:30 p.m. in the summertime. And we were looking out our windows, wishing we could play. So, and I actually let my children stay out till 8:30, 9 at times. So I think I was very lenient considering how I was brought up.
So do you think you would make the book of Don't Be That Parent because you let your children out?
No, absolutely not.
So what would make the book?
Okay, I might have been a little harsh when I took the yellow baseball bat out to get my children. And I know a lot of people don't believe in punishment or chastisement, as I prefer to say. I wasn't trying to hurt my children. I was just trying to goad them into coming in the house.
Did they come?
Oh, they ran in. They ran in. Oh, okay. Surely it was no problem. They ran from all directions trying to get in the house first.
So what chapter would that be in Don't Be That Parent?
That would probably be in the chapter of corporal punishment.
Okay. Public corporal punishment. Okay. All right. So this is serious, on a serious note. What do you think the culture or society has reduced or moved parenting to be?
A babysitter. A babysitter.
Okay.
We're simply a babysitter, not even a glorified babysitter. Because we really can't correct our children because then we would be considered too harsh. You certainly can't goad them, parentheses, quote unquote. The last question you asked me about what section of the book it would be in. And I'm thinking about embarrassing your children because I'm sure my children were embarrassed. But let's say they were out late at night and the police picked them up because they were out late at night. Who would be embarrassed? Me or the child? Children don't know embarrassment. So yes, I believe parents have been reduced to being babysitters, and again, not even glorified babysitters. We're reduced to the ones who are to be seen and not speak. We're just there. But as caregivers and as individuals who have brought these children into the world, you feel an